coming up. Pour the liquor right in the cup. In case the Rona be on the hunt, be on the hunt. Got Henny in the cup, Corona in the streets. Got plenty in the stable that's ready to receive. Need everything I want, get everything I need. And can't nobody, ain't nobody fuck around with me. I'm on my own.
Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy M.I. Sizzle. Appreciate y'all coming out, kicking with your boy today, man. We're gonna be talking about a few things. Make sure y'all check out tknhouseent.com. Get you some of the new merch. THT still going on, although we had to cancel some yesterday. But go ahead and donate to the Grand Pies. Also, shout out to Thumb Pro Arcade. Gonna be hooking us up with one of them drum pros, so y'all gonna see me playing with that pretty soon. So shout out to them. Check out all our affiliates: No Brown Brown, Chop. We got Scrub Dojo, Yoshi, 404 Esports, and Heist Series from Slim Cat. Shout out to Slim Cat. Once again, join the gaming revolution. 404 Esports, and you know my sponsor, Coach MIC over there at Infinite. Stay connected with them, all right? And of course, you got to check this out. My girl, she delivering them. She mailing them out, so you can get some milkhoneycoffee.shop. She got all kind of good flavors. Check them out. Now let's get into the meat of the discussion today. Hope you all have been doing well. I know I've been doing well. The discussion we're going to be having today is going to be centered around you'll never be great. And see how I came to this discussion. Was laying in the bed with my lady earlier and popped on a Netflix. Things was going pretty well. We checked out this James Brown movie. It came out a while back. One of the later works of Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P. Chadwick, very good actor. And one of the things that I really picked up in the movie was it's pretty inspiring. You take a look at his life, definitely a lot of ups and downs, a lot of turmoil. But one of the things that really stood out to me as I went over it, it talked about his background. His background's pretty rough. He had his mom and his father. They were kind of dysfunctional, living out of Augusta. Shout out to Augusta. Y'all know about Augusta out here in Georgia. But she, I don't really know what she was. I think she was like a hooker or some sort. I can't really remember. They didn't really explicitly state it. But she definitely was running them streets. She was for the streets. And the father, I don't know if he did much. Looked like he had a gambling problem or something. Nonetheless, he grew up in a very, I guess you might call it, is it tumultuous? I think that might be the term. Maybe that might not be the right word, but definitely had very hard times that he grew up in. Grew up in a shack in the woods. His mother left. It was just him and his father there. His father realized he couldn't do much with him. It was unstable as it was. Sent him to go, pretty much left him at a whorehouse. And the young man grew up, in less than stellar situation. I say all that to say, to get where he got from where he was, it took a lot of adversity, a lot of obstacles to get where he was going. And one of the things that ended up happening was he stole a suit out of a car, and he ended up going to jail. And while at jail, he ended up running into this guy who was, he always had this affinity for music. They showed it through various ways. Like he was going through a church, and the pastor was up there, sliding around, gliding, preaching the word. It's like one of them backwoods type churches, speaking in tongues, music loud, people falling out, getting caught. And you could see they were showing you a lot of the development of how he got a lot of his characteristics, how he came about becoming the man we know as James Brown. And one of the interesting things was they were really showing you like this affinity he had for music. And he was in the jail, he's 17. He was looking to, face like 10 years, 10 to 15 years, I believe it was, or 5 to 10 years. I couldn't really remember. But the thing was, the reason he was in there so long was because he didn't have any family, right? So he couldn't get parole. He didn't have a house he could go to. And the way it was set up, he didn't have any family members. Obviously, his mother was running the streets. His dad was in the army, so he didn't know nothing about that. He didn't know what happened to his father. They don't explicitly state anything else about his dad after that. So nonetheless, he really didn't have the opportunity to even make it out of that situation. But there was a little group that came, a singing group. And they were like a gospel singing group. I think they were called the Flamethrowers, or I don't remember what the hell they was called. But nonetheless, besides that point, what ended up happening was one of the main singers was singing, and James was coming up from the back of the crowd, and they were in there. Everybody was in there clapping their hands and stuff, kind of like a little gospel concert, so to speak. And he was really feeling it, and then he got up to like about the second row, and he started singing. He got invoked with the spirits, I guess you could say. And with that happening, what ended up going down was the guy he was singing behind. The guy got upset. He's like, yo, he said something to him, like, you love the gospel or something to that effect. And, James just kept singing because he really was into the music. The dude turned around and punched him. I believe the other guy threw the first punch. And in doing so, a fight ensued. He ended up having to go to like the nurse, I guess the jail nurse or the county nurse. And in there, he met up with the lead singer. And the singer was, he got hit by something. Somebody threw something at him. So they were sitting side by side, and he's acknowledging James' skill. He's like, hey, you like to sing? And it's like, yeah, I'm really into music. I was born for it. I ain't really got much else I could do. He started talking about, hey man, so how long you got in here? It's like, oh man, I got like 10 years. It's like, for what? What you do? He thought maybe you might have killed somebody or something. It's like, oh man, I stole a suit. It's like, nigga, you got 10 years for stealing a suit? Like, they got you like that in here, bro? And he was like, yeah man, I ain't got no family, ain't got no friends. I can't get out on parole. So the guy goes, and they go in, and he's getting looked at. James Brown starts singing one of the gospel songs, and the guy recognized that James had skill right off the rip. So much so that he ended up going home. He started talking to his mom. He's like, look, mom, you know how you always saying this and that at church about extending mercy and shit? Look, it's this guy over here I met over here in the jail. I can see the potential. I think he'd be great, and what he was thinking at the time was, he'd be great to add to our group, right? Like as an extra singer. This guy also played the piano, so, he was really, really talented himself, right? He was the lead singer. He was the piano player. He was really getting it in. He wanted to bring James along. Well, the mama was a little hesitant at first, but you know, he put her words against her, and you know, in the next scene, you see James Brown in the crib. They all eating, whatnot. Fast forward a little bit, and they go to sing, and they're at the gospel, they're at the church, they're singing in the choir and whatnot, or I guess you can call it the group. And something very key happened, right? You don't really notice it at first, right? But it comes back in the back of the movie. And what ends up happening is, you know, as he's on the piano and he's playing, you see James Brown like step out from singing with the group, and like he almost, not quite a solo, but he really like dives into the music. He really starts to really give his all. You could see the passion he had behind it. I want you to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. You fast forward a little bit more, and you know, they end up being a group. James Brown, he becomes the James Brown we know, and he's working with the band, and you know, he's expecting a lot out of the band. And one of the band members, I think he was maybe a saxophone player, I believe. He's talking to the guy. And the guy's name was Bobby, the one that got James out of jail. And so, you know, James ends up being like a lifelong friend of this guy, right? For quite some time. He ends up being a lifelong friend of Bobby. And the guy says, listen, Bobby, you know, James think he's hot shit. Like, he be trying to cheat us like shit. He be calling these goddamn rehearsals. Every time he get a chance, he calling these rehearsals. Man, I ain't got time for this shit, bro. We got the talent too. He can't do shit without us. Just like, you know, and when he was saying that, he looked over at Bobby. He's like, bro, I understand we take it, bro. We just the hired help, right? We just the hired help. We need a gig. He giving us the gig. But why you take this shit? Like, that's your boy. You done known this nigga for a long time. You seen him come from nothing to something. And he still talk crazy to you. Like, bro, what's really going on, dog? I need to get me a sound effect. I need to pull that up. I know, with my boy, make sure I put that in there. Shot the one and only Average Joe. He got me a little "what's going on" button. I gotta add that into the stream. But you know, they was asking. You know, it's like, bro, what's happening, dog? And so Bobby said, listen, dog. Everybody ain't the one. All right. He said he remembered when he saw it happen. Now, they don't show you this, right? But using my skills of deduction, I realized what he was talking about. He was talking about that time when he saw James step forward out the crowd. And he saw the passion that was built up and bubbling over when James was in front of the group singing. He peeled away from the group and really started singing that gospel. He said, I been saw his genius, dog. I saw it. He was destined to be great. He looked at this man square in his eyes. He said, listen, man, there's pressures associated with being great that you or I, speaking of himself, will never be ready for, right? You'll just never be ready for that shit. Like, you think you want to be the man until you're the man. And that sparked today's conversation, right? That sparked today's conversation. What does it mean to be great? Well, we're going to look that up, right? You know, because you know how we like to do. We like to go to the intranet, get the information, right? So let's look at what that really means. Great. Of an extent, amount, or intensity considerably above the normal or average. All right. of ability, quality, or eminence considerably above the normal or average. An important or distinguished person. All right. So that's what we're looking at. When we're talking about being great, we're talking about somebody who really sets themselves apart from the average. Now you're saying to yourself, Mike, what you mean? I'll never be great? I can never be above the average? Well, here's the thing. Being great is more than we like to think it is, right? When we think of great, we see people's success. And when we think of being great, we look through the eyes of other success. But see, greatness is not something you can bestow upon yourself. I know it becomes one of the things we talk about. It became very common in our culture, maybe around, I want to say the early 2000s, where people start really proclaiming their own greatness, right? I think it started maybe with, not started with, because, you have people like Muhammad Ali, but by the time he said it, he was already proving himself, right? I know like Jay-Z was one of the people start proclaiming himself the greatest alive. Then you had Lil Wayne, was a guy who came up in hip hop. He's like, listen, I'm the greatest alive. Since the greatest rapper retired, I know y'all remember that line. To where it became almost just like a point of pride. It became a thing where you just actually had to state it. It became a point of where it went from something that was lauded and applauded to something that was more self-actuating, right? Something that you spoke as an affirmation, as a way to get you there. But a lot of people talk about speaking things into existence. But greatness doesn't really work like that. You can't just simply speak your way into greatness. Greatness requires really three things. One, and one of the most important, is hard work, right? Hard work is the foundation of greatness. Now, a lot of people have you believe no matter what you do, as long as you work hard, you could be great. But that just simply isn't true, right? I could try to be a basketball player. I could work very hard at basketball every day of my life. I'm really playing it. I'm putting the ball to the court, to the pavement, wherever I'm playing. And, I'm getting my handles good. I'm getting all my shots off. I'm working on my jump shot. I'm working on hooks, layups. I got ups, you know what I'm saying? I pump my shoes up. Now I'm dunking on niggas. You could be doing all that. Day in, day out. I'm hitting the weights. I'm getting swole. I'm running good distances, getting my endurance up. But that ain't going to be enough. I'm also going to need to be talented, right? See, there's a difference between working hard at something and actually being talented. When we look at talent, right? Talent is so much different than just hard work. Talent is actually being able to achieve what somebody might need hard work to even start to understand, right? Let's look up exactly what talent is, right? Look, talent is natural aptitude or skill, okay? When you think about talent as a natural attribute, right? You can't teach talent. Talent is what you're born with, right? James Brown had talent. He wasn't schooled by anybody to become who he was. That was something that came from within. this is another important portion of being great, right? Being a great artist, being a great basketball player, being a great politician, a great lawyer. These things require talent as well as hard work. Now, hard work, if done correctly and done with enough effort, it can get you in the realm of talent, right? And talent by itself also is useless because you have to hone your talent to sharpen it, right? Being able to be good at shooting free throws or shooting three-pointers, you might just be talented. Your mind and the way and inner workings of your body might just be, very well meshed with the geometry and physics of shooting a basketball. So much so that you understand it naturally. But you have to still gain hard work. You still have to put in hard work to maintain a certain level of greatness. Or otherwise, you're just going to be a nigga that can shoot three-pointers at the local basketball court, right? See, there's a third component to greatness that when people are great, you hardly ever hear them say this. But this is actually one of the things that almost more than anything else is a huge factor to becoming great. And that's just luck, right? Being lucky will excel you much more than both of those other two by themselves ever will. But simply being lucky also not going to be good enough, right? Because without this luck, you're really you're going to just be wasting time, right? So, but let's look up luck. Let's see what that really means. When we think about luck, luck is a success or failure apparently brought by chance rather than through one's own actions, right? So when we talk about luck in this regard, we're talking about obviously having good luck, right? We're talking about being able to have luck that pushes you forward. At the end of the day, these three things in combination are what makes greatness. I took a look at an article and it really put into perspective what we're talking about today. And that article is, here's what to remember when stressing about not being the best, right? I'm gonna drop this link if I can. I'm gonna drop this link over here in the chat. Y'all can check it out. And send that over there to y'all. If y'all want to check it out. We're going to go over this article. I'm going to talk about it a little bit because it really helps you put in perspective about not being the best. And essentially, being great normally comes with having the mindset of becoming the best, right? So let's take a look at that, if you will. All right, it's from The Muse, right? And it's entitled, Here's What to Remember When You're Stressing About Not Being the Best. The article reads, when I was a little girl, my pushy, overbearing mother forced me into dance lessons. Now, I'll let you on to a little secret about me. I've always been the type of person who's completely unwilling to do anything halfway. If I'm going to put in time in any way, you can bet I'm going to give it my absolute all. So, personal background aside, let's get back to these dance lessons. My group of squirrely and uncoordinated dancers had rehearsals on Wednesdays every week in order to attempt to pull together this mess of a tap dance routine, which basically consisted of all of us running back and forth across the stage, stomping as loudly as we could. But in my mind, I was Ginger Rogers. I practiced every night, eagerly awaiting my chance to soak up the spotlight and show that the crowd of beaming parents exactly what I was made of. I knew that I was so far above these other spastic so-called dancers, I would surely steal the show and politely curtsy to an unending standing ovation. Now let's look at that for a second, right? When you think about this, you can apply it to your life, right? Let's think about Tekken. When we talk about Tekken, because y'all know that's one of the major things we do on this platform. You remember, or how many of you have ever been what we call a neighborhood king, right? Somebody who you play the best, you're the best in your neighborhood, right? You beat everybody around you. It's like, man, you know, I'm unstoppable in that Tekken, dog. I'm unstoppable in what I do. I'm unstoppable in that basketball, bro. Nobody can't beat me, bro. Nobody can outscore me. All right? I'm the grossest nigga of all time. All right? Well, this is how this girl felt. She looked around at her competition and she said, you know what? First off, I'm not going to half-ass nothing. If I go in here, I'm not going to be half-assing a goddamn thing. I'm all about giving it my all. And these motherfuckers around here, they just ain't about that. They ain't on my level. You know what I'm saying? They ain't got what I got. They ain't got the skills that I got. She just knew she was about to goddamn tap circles around. Dance circles around them with the tap dances. Gonna have the whole crowd clapping for her. That's what she just knew in her mind. She was just like, I'm just that. I'm that nigga. Let's continue the article. All right. When the day of the big recital came, I was amped and ready. I had on my pink leotard with a sew-on fuzzy tail, feeling perfectly polished. Shout out to Polish. Y'all need to check out the album, all right? Check out that Polish track. Tell them about it, A1. Anyway, we're going to get back to it. Feeling perfectly polished for our Pink Panther tap routine. My sparkly pink ears were centered around on my head, and I was ready to stand center stage. The music started. I pasted on my adorable grin and prepared to strut my stuff. The audience smiled, giggled, and let out adoring oohs and ahs. Okay? Oohs and ahs. Hopefully it wasn't no perverts out there, you know what I'm saying? They might have been looking. You know how they like to get down. What they call them? Youth attracted people? Mature attractive. I don't even know what they call it, John, but they be trying to let everything slide nowadays. But we gonna get back on topic. All right. But when I looked out into the crowd, I noticed that they weren't looking at me. Well, of course my parents were, but that wasn't necessarily the endless admiration I was aiming for. Instead, everybody was totally captivated by a different little girl on the stage. We'll call her Jennifer for the sake of her anonymity. Sorry about that. Though, you know who you are, Jennifer. You know, you could tell she was hating, bro. You know what I'm saying? She was hating. All right. Oh yeah, they be. Listen. We gotta let them know. We ain't fucking with that. All right. We ain't fucking with that map. All right. Anyway. So I hate to even admit it, but she was charming and adorable. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who would run home and practice in front of dear old ma and dad. She completely stole my thunder. Now we're gonna pause right there. Right? We're gonna pause right there for a second. See, what happened was Neighborhood King, you know what I'm saying? Let them know. Ain't got no time for that. Let them know what they really are. All right. Anyway. What happened was the Neighborhood King, best player in the league, you know, best player in the streets, in the neighborhood, went to the arcade. Just knew she was going to be tearing folks up. Knew she was going to get the praise. Knew she was going to get the attention. But she didn't know Mike ATL was about to be coming to the arcade that day. Right? So, here it is. Motherfucker just out here beating their chest, got their chest puffed up. They ain't even bring nothing but a quarter to the damn arcade, because they just know they gonna be there playing off that quarter all day long, dog. You know, I pull up. I'm like, all right, who's this guy? I'm sitting back, I'm watching. I'm like, oh, he got like a 10-game win streak over here on the arcade. All right. I'll let him get by. Let me see. I'll let him play a few more. You know what I'm saying? I want him to get as much as I can let him get out that quarter. Because he don't even realize. Like, I'm about to step up over here and beat the brakes off this motherfucker, dog. And he going in, or she going in, and she playing, she on the joystick. She got damn, you know what I'm saying? That's the sound of the joystick moving back and forth. Tapping on the keys and shit. And, that quarter extend out to like 15 wins. It's like, okay, so this motherfucker's fairly decent. So, you know, I don't say nothing. I just step up, put my quarter in the machine. This motherfucker is really don't even give me no look. Like, this motherfucker is looking at the screen like he about to go to random select and just choose who he want to choose. And, you know, pop a quarter in. I say, hey, man, what's good, dog? He's like, what's up, man? My name Jennifer. It's like, yo, Jennifer, that's what's up. That's what's up. You getting it in over here, ain't you? I see you got a streak, bro. You must be really good at this shit. How long you been playing? It's like, listen, man, I've been playing this shit all my life. I'm the best, okay? I'm the best. I'm destined to be the greatest who ever played, man. I'm the greatest. Well, what ends up happening is I put my quarter in there, and I tear his ass up. You know what I'm saying? I tear his ass up. He ain't backdashing, ain't breaking throws, ain't just keep doing death fists all over again, over and over. Don't even know it's unsafe. Nobody ain't ever punished. I go get knocked this launching his ass every time. I'm doing combos. He didn't even know you could do combos. How you think that person felt, right? That really stung, right? Well, just like old girl, wasn't expected it, right? Like, she didn't even think to herself, like, there could actually be somebody who's doing the same thing, if not more, than I am, right? Let's continue on as we look at the rest of this paragraph. So, she goes to talk about how she wasn't the only one, right? She said she completely stole my thunder. Me, well, I was so dumbstruck by the fact that this other little panther had swooped in out of nowhere and took all of my glory that I completely froze, causing the girl behind me to step on my fuzzy tail, trip and tumble to the floor, and rip a giant hole in my butt, in the butt of my leotard. Definitely not one of my finer moments. So here I am going. So where am I going with this long, rambling story of childhood woe? Well, I've always lived my life with the idea that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be the absolute best at it. But as I moved from that tap dance trauma and grown into an adult, I realized something. That's absolutely exhausting, an absolutely exhausting way to live. It's a harsh reality. You're likely never going to be the best at what you do. And the sooner you can swallow that pill, the better off and saner you'll be. Need some guidance? Here's 4 steps that will help you accept the brutal fact before your tail gets stepped on by some clumsy-footed person behind you. See, what she's talking about here is something we all experience throughout life, right? There are very few people that really get to be the best. You know, when we think about gaming, you know you want to practice, right? You're going to strive to do your best. But how many of you have ever thought to yourself, I just don't think I'll ever be the best. Like, I put in all this work and I look across the street, but I just ain't got the talent, right? Or I got all this talent and I put in all this hard work, but I'm just not in a position to ever get recognition. Like, what's going on? Why won't they notice me? See, a lot of people will tell you that hard work is going to be good enough, but there are a lot of things that just actually nothing you can control. One of the reasons you can't control this is because you have to recognize that things are always changing, right? Everything in the world, your career, your gaming career, your favorite activity, hobby, all of that shit is always changing, right? Things will always change. And that's something that we have to recognize, or we'll just possibly never, ever be able to move forward. So let's talk about it. Let's look back at it and go to step one of how the world is always changing. The world and even your career are constantly evolving and changing. What does this mean for you? Well, even if you do manage to attain the title of reigning champ for a brief, shining moment, it probably won't last for too long. Just think, Tom Anderson from MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace? If y'all remember MySpace, you might be a little old, all right? But Tom Anderson from MySpace was the coolest thing in a white tee to ever hit the social networking scene. Until some nerdy Harvard student by the name of Mark Zuckerberg came along and turned things around. George Washington was our first president, but 42 others have come after him. NFL teams are awarded the Vince Lombardi Trophy, but only until another team wins it next year. So, here's what you need to remember about truly being the best at something. Only one let's highlight this. All right, we're going to zoom up. Only one person. Okay, hold on, let me see, where was that? Right here, I need you to see this. Only one person can do it at a time. All right, it's going to only be one person that is the best. And even once you pull that off, someone will be directly behind you, poised and ready to rip that crown off your head. Trying to constantly fend off those competitors for the sole purpose of remaining on the top, it's plain old exhausting and, quite honestly, unproductive. Now, when they're thinking about it, right, when we look at it, that kind of gives you some kind of feel of like, well, should I not be striving to be the best? And no, that's not the case. You know? But being great, right? Being the best and being great, they're not necessarily synonymous, but they are synonyms, right? They are close in their relation. Because one of the things, I guess maybe greatest would be more of a synonym, but the thing about being the best is that you can be the best for a short period of time, right? But when we think about being the best, you don't think about the guy who won one NBA title. He would never be the best. You don't think about a guy who became the boxing champion for one bout and then lost the next bout. What's his name? Buster Douglas. I believe that was his name, bro. When you think about Buster Douglas, when he beat Mike Tyson, he became the champion. I mean, would anybody argue that he was a great boxer, like he was the greatest? Of course not. I think he lost that that title to Evander Holyfield next. Like this next match, I believe that he lost it to Evander Holyfield, if my mind serves me correctly. So when we're thinking about being great, we have to put into perspective that being great is essentially hard work, talent, luck, and all of those things combined over a span of time. Now I want to ask you this, right? Y'all in the chat. Do you think you'll ever be great at anything? Give me a 1 if you say yes, 2 if you say no, 3 if you feel like you're not sure. You know, we got a 1 in the chat. You know, one of the things, you know, some 3s. One of the things I like to point out is that there's a good chance most of us appreciate that, Cut West. It's a good chance most of us will never be great. You know, it's a good chance that none of us will ever be great. Do you remember that definition of great? It says basically doing something at an exceptional level that far exceeds normal or average. Now, there are different caveats to this, right? Just by you being a tournament player in a video game, or, you know, even by you playing D-League or rec ball consistently, on the scale of humans, you're already great. You're already outperforming the average person, typically, right? But then we start to take things and we elevate them, right? We elevate the expectations. Because even if you go to a tournament and you go 0-2 consistently for like a year, right? But you know how to do combos. You understand how to do mix-ups. You just don't know how to beat nobody. Now, you just can't beat the people around you. So you're going 0-2. But do you understand that person going 0-2 but has tournament experience and is applying themselves at least a little bit? In comparison to the greater population, that person is a great player, right? Ergo, our neighborhood champion, right? You know, you drop him in a neighborhood where ain't nobody playing in a tournament, that's a great player. Everybody around him would deem him as a great Tekken player, a great basketball player, a great singer, right? But see, greatness can't stop there. Greatness has to go beyond the grand pool, and it has to take you and put you into the area where everyone else is outperforming the average person. Then you have to go with that person and you say, you know what, okay, head to head, how am I against a person that is of equal talent? Well, if I can surpass this person, I'm on my way to greatness, right? I'm on my way to greatness. I'm on my way to making it there. But I ain't great yet because there's still challenges before me. And mind you, greatness means hard work, talent, luck, but over a period of time. Shout out to Gerald French, my G. Appreciate that, homie, coming through. See, when it's over a period of time, that is where a lot of us don't have what it takes. We think back to the example in the James Brown movie where he said, listen, Doug, there are a lot of things that go into being great that you're just not ready for, right? Most of us are not ready for it. We're not ready to be in the shoes of Michael Jordan, right? We're not ready to be in the shoes of LeBron James. We're not ready to be in the shoes of Floyd Mayweather. I want you to think about that, right? Okay? I want you to really, really think about that. For you guys here that are here for Tekken, I want you to think about something we talked about last time we were on the show. We talked about a guy named Poke Chop here in the local Atlanta scene. Y'all probably know him. By all accounts, he is a great player, right? But do you know how he became a great player? Years and years of top level play, right? And results. Plus, he was lucky enough to have came into another group of other people that were very good players, very high level players, and being able to gain and glean a little information here and there and hone his talents. Plus, he has natural talents. You know, he doesn't practice as much as a lot of other people, you know, but he has a natural knack for understanding how games work, right? Having a natural knack for understanding fighting games. You can put him in almost any fighting game. If he wants to play it, he is definitely going to be able to play it. So you take all of those things. Over time, he has proven himself. And we spoke about this last time. A lot of the times people have certain goals that they want to meet. And they have a success factor, but that success factor does not necessarily make you a great player, right? Chop, I said last week, you know, if he's 52 weeks in a local, right? And he's able to win 48 or even 40. I mean, if he won 40, if he won 20, right? Amongst his peers, amongst the group, he is far outselling, right? He's excelling far beyond those around him. Those that are also considered to be exceptional amongst the vast majority. Even when you put him in that group, he's excelling, right? Almost always winning. So then you take somebody like Chop, right? You have to then push him to the next level, right? Now you went from good players to exceptional players. How does he do in that realm? Right? Well, then you have people like him, and you've got Anakin, you've got Joey Fury, you've got Nee. Well, no, we're gonna take those guys out. We're gonna say, okay, you've got players like Shin Blade. You've got players that are, you know, maybe like myself. You got players that are on the next level up, right? They're exceptional players. When you take the good players of the whole population, the people that they would consider good, and then you could cherry pick some of these players, and you would say these are exceptional players. Rick Derula, a lot of people fit in this area, right? Brawl Pro. If we're looking at another sport, you know, you take basketball, for instance, right? When you're in high school, your ability to play is good. But what happens when you go to like the all-state game, right? All-American games. Oh, well then there's only so many people. They have to pluck those people. You might be very good on the basketball team in high school, but when the colleges need to pick their people, there's a graduation of skill level, right? The skill pool becomes much higher in talent, much smaller in numbers. So with that being the case, you actually have to be exceptional to even be average in this next level of play, right? And so what we're seeing happen there is you then get reshuffled back into how well do you do against your peers? Well, of this group, you might have a guy like Anakin, Jimmy J. Tran, right? Nee, like I said, Joey Fury, a Cuddle Core. Now you look at these players and you say, you know what? These players are always getting top 8s. Even when they're placed against exceptional competition, these players always get top 8s, top 3 placements, or are winning these tournaments, grand finals placements. When you start being consistently a top 8 player amongst exceptional players, that's when you start to get into the realm of great. This is where you get your NBA players that are not just, you went from being a basketball player in the college to being an NBA player. But then you have the there are only a handful that really get to go into the greatness category, right? That's your Michael Jordans, right? The superstars that's brought out in the chat, right? These are the people that really, these are the folks that are really exceptional, right? These are the people that get the deals. But it takes a long time to get there, right? It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of talent. Most of those players are just naturally talented, right? There's very few people that are that high at the top that are not talented players. Like, that don't grasp concepts very easily. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether they're the top lawyer amongst all the lawyers, whether they are the top salesman amongst salesmen, one of the best marketers amongst marketers. All of these things take hard work, but also need talent, right? Because that hard work can only get you so far. The talent will push you over the edge. Now, when we think about that talent, you also need the luck. You need the luck that coach from Duke saw you playing basketball and he watched your performance in high school and decided to bring you on and recruit you. And then that NBA team decided to draft you because they saw what you did, right? They saw, oh, you know what? This motherfucker has a Heisman. You know what I'm saying? Now we're finna get his ass in the NFL. We about to get his ass right over here, bro. Because that motherfucker was running all through the A-gap, getting it in. See, then you get into that level. And by all means, in all stretches of imagination, any player in the NBA, the NFL, any professional league, these players are great when compared to the exceptional players. But what about against each other? And then this is truly where you get the best of the best. This is when you really get to the point of being great, right? How so? Well, lucky enough to get on the right team with the right system, the right coaching staff, the right training regimen, the right schedule, the right opponents. Then you might end up with somebody like a Tom Brady. You end up with a Michael Jordan. You end up with a LeBron James. You end up with a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You end up with a Mike Tyson. You end up with Floyd Mayweather. You end up with a Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, right? You end up with a Jack Nicholson. See, these are all people that are standouts amongst the competition, even at the highest levels. At the highest levels, these people are standouts. These are the greats of society. Now I'm going to ask again. Do you ever think you'll be great at something? Give me a 1 if you think yes, 2 for no, or 3, you're still not sure about it. See, what this conversation is meant to do, it's meant to bring into your mind that there's a possibility you could be great, but you also need to understand what it's going to take to do so, right? Sometimes it's not even in your hands. Sometimes you just will never be great. Personally, myself, I had to accept this a few times, right? And there comes a point in time where you have to accept it. But let's kick back over here and let's talk about identifying our personal best, right? Because I think that this is something that's going to be really important in how we view greatness. Just take a look at it. Identify your personal best. Let's think about marathon runners for a minute. Do these athletes all participate in the same long races because they're setting out to cross the finish line first? Absolutely not. In fact, most of them are just aiming to finish it all. Even if they come in dead last, right? So even if they come in dead last at a major, they there just to, to compete, right? But instead of trying to breeze past everyone around them, marathoners set goals of beating their personal best every time they run. They don't really concern themselves with who's ahead of them or behind them. They're only competing against the clock in their own best time. This is a mindset you can apply to your own career and life, whether you're a runner or not, sorry. Simply stop obsessing over how successful or accomplished everyone around you is and focus instead on being the best you can be. I guess it's supposed to be the best you can be. Let me tell you, once you're competing with yourself and not every single other person around you, life gets a whole lot easier. See, now this is a thing that I think a lot of us, we do this, but we don't do it intuitively, right? We don't do it maybe I shouldn't say intuitively. We don't do it with this thought in mind a lot of the times. A lot of times we're not doing it with a certain intent. Now, I know when you start off maybe doing an activity, you do kind of set goals for yourself. But a lot of the times, when we look at successes, when we look at our ability to mold ourselves into someone great or into something great, we look at the greatest and we compare ourselves to what they've done. But see, what we don't think about is, how did they get there? Right? See, you start to look at a guy like an Anakin. For all intents and purposes, he's probably the only person in America to really be on a major brand for the game of Tekken. He's one of the, maybe for fighting games in general, to be on a major brand. We're saying like a brand that has nothing to do with gaming. Pick this guy up. It took a long time for that to get there though, right? This is a guy who managed to stream for years on end without missing too many days. This is a guy who is almost expected to win every tournament, which goes back to that pressure we were talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? People don't think about how hard it is for Floyd Mayweather. Now, do you really want to be Floyd Mayweather? A guy who basically you have to win, or your greatness automatically gets questioned. Think about that. A guy who was so good at what he did that everybody prayed for his downfall. So not only are you fighting your opponent, you are fighting against everybody, the odds makers, all right? You're fighting against the crowd. Even those that admire you want to see you go down for the sake of saying you ain't as good as you thought you was. Are you ready to have that pressure? Because that's what it takes to be great. Think about all those names I named that were great. Great, not exceptional, right? But we're talking about great players. When compared against the best of the best, they were great. Standouts. You think Nee can come to an Atlanta local and lose? And people look at Nee the same? Oh, hell no. He fuck around and lose to Mac Panther? They would never let him leave that down, okay? He fuck around and lose to Abstract? Never let him live it down. You think Anakin could come to a Atlanta local and lose that motherfucker and people gonna look at him the same? Maybe if he lose to Chop. But see, a lot of people don't think about it. There is a great pressure in being great. There's a great pressure in even being exceptional. See, what a lot of us don't think about is we think about, man, I'm gonna play Michael Jordan in basketball and I'm gonna beat him. Okay. Let's say you beat Michael Jordan in a basketball game. Well, let's say you beat him in a basketball game. Does that make you great? No, just means you beat him. Right? And this is what happens. It's almost like the analogy of a man fighting a woman, right? When it comes down to it, the person who is great, they have everything to lose, nothing to gain. This is why a player like Poke Chop over there in Tekken, he'll money match you. He'll make you money match him to play him, right? Because if he wins, he needs to get something out of playing you. If it's not for the sake of just helping you out, he needs something to motivate him. These great players, they need motivation. These are things that a lot of us, when we think about being great at something, we only think about the recognition side of being great. Not the pressure, not the consistency that it requires to become great. I could take myself, for instance. There was a time where I was probably the best in Atlanta at the game of Tekken. I was probably one of the best in the country at the game of Tekken. Didn't matter where people came from, far and wide. West Coast could come over. North could come, South could come. It's pretty much handling almost all competition that was coming from a throat at the time, right? I did that for, the span of maybe like 2 years. It was really, really like very good. But I didn't travel a lot, right? So you really wouldn't know this unless you came and played me. If you lived in Atlanta, you knew I was really good. But when you put me against other people on my playing field, I showed that I wasn't just a neighborhood king. I just didn't have the resources, right? I was not lucky enough. You know what I'm saying? I was not lucky enough to make it to that upper echelon of being known as a great player, right? Well, you take into consideration you have a player like Jimmy J. Tran. That guy has been consistently very good. He's had the ability and the luck of having the West Coast crew who is very tied in to what's going on over there at Namco. And so when he's able to shine, he was able to shine while eyes were on him, right? While people were watching. That makes a difference, right? See, greatness is not just about your abilities. Like we said before, it's not just about your talent. It's not just about your hard work. I mean, he could not even be the best and be looked at as great, right? There could be somebody better than LeBron at basketball. There could be a boxer that is far better than any boxer we've ever seen. But he was never given that opportunity. You know, he didn't catch the eye of the right person. The word didn't get around into the proper ear to help move him along to that point where he could achieve greatness. This is why it's likely you'll never be great. It's not because you don't have the abilities. It's not because you don't have the talent. But luck is luck. That's the pill that's hard to swallow. Right? And even if you get luck, the even harder pill to swallow is, will you cave under that pressure? Will you be able to hold it up? See, a lot of these players come and go, right? In anything. You know, the best football player has his time, right? We see Mike Tyson. If you grew up during the era of Mike Tyson in his prime, like, Mike Tyson was ridiculous, all right? So much so that people still question if he was one of the best boxers of all time. He even had losses. Like, some of the losses was kind of embarrassing. But you understood, like, he was so good for so long and doing stuff at such a high level that nobody was doing at the time, that it cemented his greatness to a point that when, you know, he came back, he came out of jail and he was losing, it really didn't matter that much because he had already put himself in concrete. He had already etched himself in the wall of greatness. Right? It takes a lot to get there. Look at Michael Jordan. He was so good for so long that when he retired and came back and played for the Wizards, like, it was pathetic, right? It was pathetic. But nobody even holds that against Michael Jordan. Like, nobody even talks about that. This man is considered arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. He came back and got toe up. Was looking horrible out there. I mean, I guess he was doing all right, but the team was looking horrible out there. But nobody even takes that into account when you talk about Michael Jordan. Like, the Wizards, they just stop at the Bulls, right? They just stop at the Bulls. But that's because it took not just hard work, not just talent, not just the luck of having a good system around him, but it also took longevity. The aspect of greatness that a lot of us are not even prepared to do, as well as being able to keep all that pressure off of you. See, these are things that go into being great. So I ask once again, do you think you'll ever be great? Give me a 1 if it's a yes, 2 if it's a no, 3 if you're still not sure. We're going to go back into this article and we're going to think about the outcomes. See, when it comes to these outcomes, many people want to be known as the best, but for really no good reason. So before busting your hump to achieve that fleeting status, it's important that you take some time to think about what that accomplishment actually gets you. If your only answer to that question is bragging rights, you're probably not pursuing something in your own best interest. That one kind of stings, right? Because when you think about why you want to be great, this right here really highlights, this sentence right there, it really highlights the motivations behind what makes certain people great and why other people just aren't great, right? They're good. They can even be exceptional to an extent by comparison, but if your reason for wanting to be great is built on a shaky foundation, it's something we talk about in the TTU. Shout out to TTU. Go check us out. TKN. houseent.com/TTU. Get trained up. If y'all don't know about that, you can go check us out. You know what I'm saying? Let me go ahead and bring that up for you. You know what I mean? Bring that thing up for you right quick. But when you think about it, that line is so important. It's very, very important, right? Because if you look at things through the eyes of a person who just wants to be good for the sake of being good, so people will say they're good, like, there's a very shallow motivation. And because that motivation is so shallow, you'll probably never make it to great. Even if you accomplish, even if you accomplish something that is great, right? Like, let's say you win Evo. There are a lot of people that have won Evo that you have no idea who they are. You know why? Because they might not have been consistent. If I go and I win Evo and I quit playing, well, nobody's going to remember me, right? And so I'm never going to actually make it to being a great player, because being great is also partly subjective. But the thing about it is, it's subjective not from your own point of view, but from those who are observers. And if the observers don't acknowledge it, then it was all for naught. Let's continue with this paragraph. But wait, you're likely retorting now. Being the best means I'll be successful and well respected in my career field. Sure, that's true, but think about it this way. Do you absolutely have to be number one in order for that to happen? Wouldn't you also be considered successful if you completed that challenging project ahead of the deadline or solved a complex problem in your office? Wouldn't you also be well respected if you were always kind and considerate of all of your colleagues? There are plenty of people out there with amazing professional reputations and important legacies that were truly never the best at what they did. That number one spot really isn't the be all and end all. So why are we talking about this, right? Because this is, like I said, it's talking about being the best. But one of the things that we're talking about in relation to how we put this in our life and being great is being the best comes with greatness, right? Or being known as one of the best to do it, right? See, if your ambition is not strong enough to get you to steer past the portion of being content, greatness just won't be in you. How many of you feel that you've actually been great at something based upon the parameters that we've given here today? A lot of the times, most of us don't know what it's like to be great. We know what it's like to be great amongst our peers. We get that feeling. But how many times have you ever done something and you knew you were the best around those around you? Right? It could be anything. You could be the best spades player. You could be the best person at math. You could be the smartest kid in class. If you've ever had that experience, it is something that is, I can say for myself, having experienced it several times in several different categories, that it definitely is a feeling that it's unmatched, right? It's unmatched. When people look at you with admiration, a certain level of respect, that comes along with it. It definitely is something that warms the innards, all right? But also having that happen, I also learned that for myself personally, I was cool with being exceptional. I didn't really care to get great. See, that was a realization I had to come up with myself. When it came to being great, I realized, like, more often than not, I had the talent. More often than not, I was hard working. But I just wasn't that lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just knew I was never that lucky. You know, when I think about music, I think my talents and hard work, you know, I've done shows. I think the content of the music I make is pretty good. I think that if you put me on a track with any of your favorite artists, there's nothing your artist could do that I wouldn't understand how to do myself. But there's a difference, right? There are people that are maybe not as talented as I am in certain realms of music, but they might be far more talented in other realms. But you think about somebody like Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy is arguably a great example of somebody who was very lucky, right? You know, he was talented. He made his own beat, I believe, at the time. He made a song that was catchy, and he did so in a time period where nobody had ever been really discovered like that too much on the internet. And he was able to build and amass great fortunes, fame, but would you consider him the greatest? No, I wouldn't even consider him great. Now, is he better than MIC from a financial standpoint? Undoubtedly. Has he had more success? Undoubtedly. But you remember what I said about being subjectively great? See, there are things that you can't always measure in a way that's tangible, right? Sometimes things can't be quantified. But there's always going to be that level where you're going to have to figure out, like, okay, I want to be great. What is it going to take? See, Soulja Boy was on the right track. If he wanted to be great, he could have changed up his music a little bit. He could have maybe done some other things with his music, took the direction of his music somewhere else. But he became content with being good enough. That's where a lot of us get caught up. We make a top 8 once or twice. People start coming to our streams, you know, or a lot of players, you know, in basketball, like they get drafted into the NBA, and appreciate it, Wavy, appreciate that. They get drafted into the NBA and they feel like, hey, listen, I made it, bro. Now they paying me to play basketball. I'm straight. I got my name on the back of his jersey. I'm on television, making a good living. You know, I think I'm cool here. And see, what happens with those people is that they start to recognize, like, all I really wanted was some recognition, you know? All I wanted was to meet this particular goal. I didn't really want to be the best. They became content with the outcomes that they were getting, right? And see, this led them to accept the fact that, you know what? I'm cool being good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with just being good enough. That brings us back over here to our article. So we brought up on point number 4. Accept good enough. I've already admitted to being an obsessive perfectionist. So if you're anything like me, the words good enough are like nails on a chalkboard or styrofoam rubbing together. They make me grit my teeth and cringe. And I think it's important to mention that I'm not at all insinuating that you should half-ass all of your commitments in the interest of keeping your sanity. Instead, my point is simply that you do not need to be the best at something in order to still be great at it. Now, that is important. That is important. Let's talk about it. They aren't mutually exclusive. Don't believe me? Ask a room full of people who the greatest band of all time is. I'm willing to bet you get tons of different answers. Because in the end, the title of best is really quite, say it with me, subjective. So yes, you can still take immense pride in your skills and work without having a shiny trophy or accolade to hold high above your head. In fact, this person encourages doing so. It's human nature to crave that top spot that earns you the title of most successful, most accomplished. But setting being the best as your sole aim in your life and career is a surefire way to drive yourself straight into the ground. Using these 4 steps to help stop obsessing over being the best of everybody and instead focus on being the best version of yourself. Take it from me, the second cutest tap dancer on the stage. It really doesn't end that poorly. Shout out to Kat Bogart. All right, so I guess this is her down here. Hey, Kat, you might can still get it though. You know what I'm saying? I don't really be fucking with the white meat too much, but you know what I'm saying? You come over here, you can get done up. I'll give you the best that I got. Shout out to Aretha Franklin. When we really look at it, some real important information there at the end, right? See, being great, sometimes that's, like I said, it's not even really quantifiable, right? Some people might say the music industry, Kendrick Lamar currently is the best rapper. Like, he's a great artist. But I mean, to who? Lupe Fiasco, undoubtedly to a lot of us, is a great artist. One of the best rappers to have ever rapped. But if you take Lupe Fiasco to the projects, and you take him to maybe not even the projects, you just take him to a group of people who have a low level understanding and appreciation for the concepts that he puts forth, the lyrics that he gives people, you end up with what I call the Lupe Fiasco effect, which is basically you're giving information to people who can't understand it, right? Those people would never consider Lupe Fiasco a great rapper, one of the best, right? But you take those same people, Project Pat, you take on Young Dolph, and they'll say, oh, that motherfucker is great. This nigga's the best rapper out. Conversely, some people might consider something like, I don't know, if we go back to gaming, some people would consider that MIC ATL is probably the best King player they ever played in their life. Probably one of the best. He is the best. That's what some people might say, right? But see, where the rubber meets the road is the developments of things that become measurable, right? To take out some of that subjectivity. This is why you have people like Jordan and LeBron, why that debate is so strong, right? Because on one end, you've got all the stats. the things that make it quantifiable. And by all stretches of the imagination, all quantifiable metrics, LeBron James is undoubtedly the more accomplished player. As far as records broken, longevity, a lot of the accomplishments. But it's still debated because the subjectivity that comes along with being the greatest is much more intricate than even stats can give you. Now, when you think about somebody like LeBron James, the idea that he would have to do all that he's done and still only be debatable as the greatest, that has to come back and make us look ourselves in the mirror. Whatever it is that you're attempting to be the greatest at or be great in, right? I want you to remember something that was stated here earlier, which is being the best version of yourself. See, it's very important that you learn how to outdo yourself. Because eventually, that's how you progress. And if you keep progressing, you'll be that closer to being great. But the other portion of being great that we have to remember is somebody else has to see it in you. All the greatness in the world don't mean a thing if nobody else agrees, if nobody extends that opportunity. Listen, your dick could be the biggest dick in the room, but if nobody giving you an opportunity to see what you do with that thing, nobody looking at it, it really don't matter. It's not going to make you a great fucker, right? You're just not going to be a great fucker. Nobody's giving you the opportunity. I know that was a little bit off the beaten path. But see, what happens is you can make a certain level. You can be great onto yourself up to a certain point. But you all have heard the story of there's probably somebody better than Michael Jordan playing in the park somewhere. They could be a great player. They might have a better mind than LeBron James for the game. But without that opportunity, they're nobody. They'll never be great. Because they might be great in essence, in abilities. They might be talented in abilities. But that level of subjectiveness is really the reason most of us will never be great at anything. Does that mean you don't try? By no means. I always will encourage you. You need to try. That's part of doing the best, being the best version of yourself. Because if you aren't doing the best that you can do, and that's in all facets of life, what's going to end up happening is you're going to actually end up being nothing, right? To nobody or to everybody, right? See, if you're the parent, you got a kid, you need to learn to be the best parent you could be. Will that make you the greatest parent of all time? Subjectively to that kid, yeah. Maybe over the grand spectrum, maybe not. But see, that doesn't really matter when it comes to doing the best you can do. So you want to measure yourself in greatness to an extent. But you also want to be humble in doing so, right? Because the portion of greatness that really normally gets you the mark is a degree of humility to some extent, right? That doesn't mean you can't be prideful, But those who are prideful, they have the harder route. Because with those prideful people in those positions, you create a whole storm of people that want to see you fail, which adds more of that pressure. Every week here at 404 at a local level, people probably root against Chop 90% of the time. It's not even because they don't like Chop. In fact, I would probably argue more often than not, all these people are very enamored with Chop. But they're preying on his downfall because they understand your greatness, the view of greatness that we have of you is based upon our seeing you triumph through adversity. Seeing you come through and pull through when the stack is decked, the deck is stacked against you. Right? We go back to being a parent. When your child realizes all the fucked up shit you had to do to get them to the life that they're in, they come around. Even if they thought you was a bad parent at first, they come back around. They realize your greatness. Right? When you're at work, you put in the proper effort and you do what you need to do. The fact of the matter is this: when you start getting them promotions, you don't get promotions. Typically, you don't get promotions because you just did enough, right? You have to do exceptional work. But you might do exceptional work and nobody might not recognize you. A lot of the times, that's how life works out for most of us. Most of us will never be considered great. Because if everybody could be great, everybody would be average. Now, I want you to think about that. Ponder on that. And this is not to discourage, but rather to encourage. And doing so, allowing you to understand that, yeah, we all can be great. People who put 1 in the chat, you're going to be great. The great is, maybe not. But the fact that you have that already in your mind, you're already on the path. Those that put 2, no, you don't think you'll ever be great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being average. Contrary to what media and our current society might have you believe, being average is okay. All right? It's okay. It's nothing wrong with it. Most people are average. Not a lot of people run around being above average like that. I mean, if we talk about finances, I think the average median income for a household is like $60,000. $40,000, I believe, if you go into different ethnic groups. But overall, I think it's like $60,000 is the median income. Bro, there's some people who make $70,000, $80,000 by themselves, no mate. It just be like that. And those people, you don't even look at them as great individuals. You don't look at them as particularly great people. They're not particularly great with the finances. They just happen to make a little bit more. Nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with, understanding you fit in a certain place and doing what you do. I think a lot of us need to understand that that's where we're going to be, right? Everybody's not going to be the tournament winner, right? Everybody's not going to be the best in their city. You might not even be top 10 in your city. That doesn't mean you don't make strides, but you can also realize, like, hey, you know what? I ain't really the best, but I'm far better than I was. I've came a long way. You know what I'm saying? I've come a long way. You appreciate that for what it is. And you can still work at it. But that also allows you to do what greatness often doesn't allow others to do, right? Because typically when you're great, you're limited. You know, a lot of people don't think about it like this, but Bo Jackson is arguably one of the greatest athletes ever, in my opinion. Why? Because he was exceptional in 2 different sports. You know, it's funny that you don't think about it, but like somebody playing 2 different sports at a professional level and playing them well, how many people do that? There are people that try it, but how many people do it? You got Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson. I can't really think of too many people that have been fairly decent at several different sports on a professional level. Like, as good as Jordan is at basketball, that motherfucker went over to baseball. I don't even remember anything about his baseball career. But that's a testament to how good he was at what he was great at. You don't even worry about it. You don't even hold it against him. But see, the person who put 2, or the people who feel like 2 is where they are, that's fine. That allows you to be very good at a lot of different things. Because a great person, they don't get the opportunity to focus on a lot. They have to focus on that main course to be considered great. So you can look at that as one of the benefits of maybe recognizing, like, look, I won't be great, but I'm okay with that. I can be very good at a lot of stuff. And then for you that type 3 and you're just not sure yet, what you waiting on? You ain't got that much time. You know, I mean, time might be on your side. Time might not be on your side. You know, we don't wish bad on anybody around here, but we definitely try to be realistic. With that said, we gonna bring this thing to a close. I appreciate you all coming out to Mike on the Mic for the record. And listen, hope you all were able to get something out of this. Hope it was just as beneficial to you as it was for me going over this information and coming to these realizations. Look forward to having y'all around more often, and we'll be doing this again pretty soon. THT, make sure y'all check that out. Be coming up in the next 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from yesterday. Will be the Division 2 teams will be doing their elimination, and then 2 weeks from that date we'll be doing the finals, the playoffs. And we're getting that currently $1,100 pot. We'll be going to the winning team. Maybe we can increase that as time goes by. But nonetheless, I appreciate you all for coming out, man. It's been real. If y'all will, make sure y'all check out the Matcherino. Going to throw some change on top of that thing. You know what I'm saying? Give them a little something they can work with. Give them something they can work with. Shout out to Thumb Pro. Look forward to getting that and working and playing on that in a little bit. Be out here getting busy with it. Check out Chop Stream. Check out Average Video Game Joe, Yoshi, Slim Cat, and 404, of course. Always make sure y'all check that out. Every Wednesday, it's over there on Chop Stream. Plus, they got it on 404 Esports Stream. Shout out to my sponsors, Infinite. Make sure y'all get in contact. Y'all follow. And, of course, my baby girl, Milk Honey Coffee Shop. Go check out some of the cold brews. She got some fire-ass lemonade. That shit is slapping. That shit is slapping. With all that being said, man, listen, I appreciate y'all coming out. You know what it is. It's your boy M.I. Sizzle. Realm of the Real. Only the real can chill. I'm gonna let y'all ride out as I find y'all a little bit of something y'all can check it, kick it with. Might jump on a little later and play a little Tekken. Or maybe I might do some Apex and Flex. I don't know. But if not, it's been real, and I'll catch y'all later, alright? Peace.
You go your way, okay, dokie, that's the move. Hokey pokey, round the doorway, color code, the Rubik's Cube. Ain't no parlay, ain't no party, it's just parquet, bless the food. Blase, blase, by my bate, cop the toolin' attitude. Keep your distance, we be cool. Keep persistent, be a fool. Cause you costly, stifle, masking, pistol, point, cock, aim and shoot. 6 feet, that's the rule. 6 feet, that's the rule. 6 feet, social distance, or be 6 feet in a suit. Biohazard in a hazmat, got the body but the proof. Cause you had it, got haphazard, turn that nightmare to the truth. Yo, nigga, back the fuck up, nigga.
Yo, my man.
No, I ain't got no
Hey,
damn
Mama
change,
holla.
nigga.
You don't know what I'm
Fuck
asking
it.
for yet, man. What's
Yo,
wrong
nigga,
with you?
6 feet, nigga.
Hey, man, let me get that up off you, man. I know you got it.
Yo, back up, nigga.
You got enough, man. Come on, let me get it.
Yo, I said back up, nigga. Why you make me do that? Why you make me act the fool? Why you encroach on my person? Why you force me to pursue? Now my head's drowning in red rum. This dysfunction ain't prepared. I'm